Okay, let's start talking about John Adams as he becomes our second president of the United States. Something to know about John Adams that you realize by looking at the dates. He was only a president for one term, which means 4 years, because really by the end of his presidency, he was not the most popular guy in the world, and we're going to talk about why that was today in our video. So a big reason that why Adams wasn't very popular at the end of his presidency really starts with something called the XYZ affair. It's really the first big thing that happened in his presidency. Now, England and France were still at war with each other when John Adams became president. And we had proclaimed neutrality with George Washington, and John Adams wanted to continue to be neutral in the war and not help either side. He did, however, want to trade with both the sides. But anytime we sent a boat to trade with England, France would stop our boats. And they would get onto our boats and they would take our cargo. That's like the supplies or the products we were going to go sell to England. So when we were taking a boat to go trade with England, they would stop our boats, they would get onto our boats, and then they would take the things we were going to sell, the products. So we were losing tons and tons of money. So France was stealing our cargo, so we would not trade with England. Now, John Adams had to decide what his foreign policy was going to be in this problem. He could have just went to war with France and took them out and did all of that stuff, but he really wanted to stay true to George Washington and he wanted to stay neutral. So he had to decide how he was going to treat France. So he decides to send ambassadors. These are like representatives for our country that kind of speaks for us in different countries. So John Adams, he sends representatives from the United States to France. And these ambassadors are met by 3 French agents, and these French agents become known as X, Y, and Z. And what they want is they want $250 and to be given a loan of $10 million to the country in order to stop stealing our stuff. So what they're saying is, if you want us to stop stealing your cargo, you need to pay us $250,000 and you need to give the country of France a loan of $10 million so we can keep fighting with England. So Adams kind of had a big decision on his hand. Would he pay France or would he not? Adams decides that he would not give a dime, wouldn't give any money to France so that he could stay neutral and not be picking sides. But the American people, they started to get angry because they wanted to go to war with France. They were like, this is stupid, we don't want to pay them, but we definitely want to stop them from stealing our cargo, so we should just go to war with them. Let's just take them out. We've done it before, let's do it again. So they started talking a lot of trash about John Adams and the American government. They started bad-mouthing them, they started writing stuff in the papers, they started doing all this stuff. They started protesting about how bad the government was and how bad John Adams was. Let's see how John Adams responds to people making fun of him. So we kind of realized that in John Adams' response to people trash-talking him and making fun of him, that John Adams was a little insecure, and we could say that Adams was a little whiny. And he could not handle people making fun of him or not agreeing with him or not thinking that he was the best. So he actually makes 2 acts or 2 laws done by the president to shut people up. So the first act that he did was called the Alien Act. And he did this act because he felt that people who were not from the country, a person from another country living in the United States, he felt like these people, aliens, immigrants you could even say, were making the most trouble and saying the meanest stuff about him. So he made a law that if people were talking bad about the government and bad about him and that they were aliens, not from the United States originally, then he could just kick them out and kick them back to wherever they came from. He also said that, well, he just made it really difficult for an alien to become a citizen. So instead of only making somebody wait 5 years to become a citizen, he made them wait 14 years to become a citizen. So he was really taking it out on people for speaking badly about him, and he really thought that it was people not from the United States, so he made laws to go against them. The second law that he did was to stop the American people from talking bad about the government, and this was called the Sedition Act. Sedition means talking bad about the government. So what this act was is anybody who was talking bad about the government, saying they were being stupid, who were protesting about them not going to war with France and that Adams was making a really dumb decision, he would make them be quiet. And he would do this by threatening to throw them in jail or giving them tickets or something. Now, this really made people mad because remember, our First Amendment right says we have the freedom of speech and we have the freedom to complain about the government. It's the freedom of petition to have complaints. And so people got really frustrated with this, and this is what really killed John Adams' popularity and one of the main reasons that he didn't have a second term in his presidency and that he was only president for 4 years and not 8. So, as you can see, John Adams, not the most popular president we've ever had, for sure. He was definitely dealt with a hard situation, but didn't really handle it the best either. So not our best president, but he did keep us out of war with France and England, and that was a good thing.